you have different targets that you utilize for punching. These are standard punches, reverse punches you are familiar with, high, middle, and low, your basic open hand strikes. You have these from different styles as well, thrusting, open hand, palms, things like this. We will get into these when we get into our different techniques. What I want to cover right now are basic fighting hand combinations. These are going to look more like boxing type techniques. So we have 1, 2, 3. Number 4. Number 5. And number 6. They can be applied offensively. They can be applied defensively. Like all striking techniques, are aimed at specific points. You're not striking at the head, you're going for the temple, you're going for the pressure point in the corner of the jaw. You're working at specific points, and that's a difference, and that's an important detail to pay attention to. Work with your partner, that will give you distance, and it will give you targets and focus and control. So you just work either thrusting, snapping, or whipping, high, middle, or low. You can utilize the front leg. You can utilize the rear leg. The chop kick chops and comes back. Moving back. Use that momentum. Change it. And now for the first self-defense set we're going to work on, it's called Combative. This is a very basic self-defense set. Very important skills are going to be worked on here. There's two main concepts I want you to be aware of when you're working on these techniques. More than the techniques themselves is the concepts that are behind them. The first idea is to defend yourself. Make sure nothing that attacks you gets through to touch you. We're going to use punches as an example. Make sure you use your blocks that you've been working on so far. Soft blocks, hard blocks, strike his hands, or pair them out of way. Make sure they don't get through to you. Example, if he jabs at you, you want to make sure you parry those attacks. If there's a cross, for example, just by lifting up your hands, you're going to be defending yourself, making sure nothing gets through to touch you. The second concept we're looking for, that's the first thing, make sure you don't get hit. The second concept is to learn to counterattack immediately. Move both hands simultaneously. Try to get away from blocking and then countering a second motion. Example, if he punches to me, you want to get away from blocking first before you attack in a secondary motion. What we're looking for is to move both hands simultaneously. So that motion will look more like this. Learn to protect yourself so you don't get struck. And then simultaneously learn to put in a counter strike. Now as we're going through these techniques, the Combative means you're going to have 3 steps. The idea here is on the first motion you're caught off guard. He attacks once. Wow, defend yourself. On the second one, the same idea. Whoa, you must defend yourself. By the time the third one comes around, pow, counter on him right away. Take that initiative to counter on him. After I hit my first shot, then I'm going to follow it up with a series of combinations, okay? So that's the first way we're going to do it. 3 steps. He attacks you 3 times, you move back, block, block, and counter. Block, block, counter. Go on the right side. Once you're on the right side, teach your left side. So you have both right side, left side very, very comfortably. The second one we're going to work this is on the second move. Here's where we learn that left side really comes in handy, because we're going to do it on the exact second move. So I would say, for example, Combative number 1 on 2. Combative number 1 on 2. Yeah. So I block on the first one, on the second one, bam! That's where I'm countering my motion, right? And then the last one we're going to work this is right away on the first move. Combative number 1 on 1. Combative number 1 on 1. Yeah. Bam! And this means basically you are the most ready. The first one is to allow yourself to keep defense. Make sure nothing gets through. Buy yourself some time and some space. Get your footing, get your head, whatever you have to do to get your balance, and then find a way to counter. Later on, shorten that up, shorten that reaction time so you're catching on the second move. And at the very end, you're very ready. And you immediately counter on the first move. The next part of the training will be one-step sparring, one-step fighting. This is called Alba. For Alba number one, he is now going to enter with a front kick and punch this way, and he's going to punch. This technique, you can also take it off of this if you're doing a front kick or a round kick or a side kick. Anything here, and including a punch. As a matter of fact, you can apply them if he brings in a second punch. You can apply your technique. Once you practice both right side and left side, that'll give you the ability to be ambidextrous. In this case, we're going to go with just the one side so you can learn the sequence of movements. There's going to be a timing mechanism. As they grab, as they make a reach for you, that's when you're going to be utilizing your Tagi Sul tactics. Now, in this set of techniques, it's called Hoshin Mu Sul. Hoshin Mu Sul means defense from wrist grabs. The wrist grabs can be from the outside of the wrist. We will call those 1A, or A for that matter. From a cross wrist grab position or the inside, we're going to refer to those as B techniques, for example, 1B. We're also going to play devil's advocate, and we're going to add other facets to this. So from any of these wrist grabs, we're going to insert strikes coming from my partner. Those will be known as C or D or so on and so forth. The techniques will be identified by the lock, not so much on what number they are, but what is the lock. In that way, you'll be able to do them A, B, C, or any other way you need to do them. Hoshin Mu Sul number one. To initiate your joint locks, to have an effective joint locks, there should be a number of factors. You should be in balance, your opponent should be off balance. There should be an element of movement on his part, and again, a certain balance on your part. Precise angles on whatever the lock is that you're doing, this should be precise. There should be fluidity of tactic, where you can take them down, do whatever you're doing. If you lose this, then you go into the next lock. And you should have pain in your opponent. Maximum pain on his part, minimum effort on your part. That's the beauty of joint locks. Okay, so Hoshin Mu Sul number one is an outside wrist lock. So that's what we're looking for, an outside wrist lock. This is crucial. From this position here, I'm going to re-grab with both hands and do a couple of things. I can either simply just pivot with my body and spin this foot here, going for a full torque, and take my opponent down. Once he's down, rather than punching, which I can still do, or kicking, which is what a lot of people do, get into the habit of making him tap out. Learn to do your techniques all the way. So for example, in this case, if I took him down, I might just flex his wrist towards the ground, knee on the bicep in here, and then cause the wrist to crank. Then get into the habit of going all the way with him. Again, you will react the way you're conditioned. The way you train is that's what's going to come out. So get in the habit of doing the techniques all the way and getting them to tap out. As we said, it's an outside wrist lock. So again, I initiate it this way, pivot, come in this way. 1B will be the same lock, outside wrist lock, but now it comes from a cross wrist grab. The idea stays the same. I'm going to pivot, causing him a certain amount of off balance. I'm going to rotate, coming in here. Re-grab, and the takedown is the same. The lockup can be the same. If I want, I simply pivot, knee onto that bicep, crank the wrist down. You'll get the lockup. 1C is bringing another element. So from these wrist grabs, it'd be nice if I can just do all these techniques I needed to do. But what if he punched at me or kicked at me or anything or went for a clinch or whatever? This is something you need to address. We're going to give you a framework to work that into. So let's say, for example, he grabbed me. I was about to go here, all of a sudden the punch came in. So you have to flow. I can either put my hand this way or still start initiating. It doesn't matter. Right now my concern is making sure I don't get hit. From here, I'm going for my technique so I can strike as I'm coming for my lock that I'm practicing. Or same kind of block, I can maybe bring my shot in. All that stuff we were practicing before. Now we're going to start applying it. And then I'm going to apply my wrist locks or whatever the locks that have the technique that I'm doing. Also, I can bring in my Tagi Sul techniques. I can go right back to this hand, or I could actually
from here, do my Tagi Sul, and then go for the punching hand if I wanted to. Another element, this is attacking the high line. If he comes in for that punch, I can still come in here, work my low line technique, and then go for my lock, so on and so forth. So this will give you a lot more versatility and practicality when you're practicing those techniques, okay? So, Hoshin Somok number 1 done at a regular speed.
Hoshin Somok number 1.
Hey, yes, oh, yes, yes, yes. It doesn't matter whether you have center line, whether it's a little bit off center line, whether his elbow rotated up a little bit, whether it's rotated under a little bit. From here, you got him. From here, you got him. If it over-rotated, then in here, you got him. Even if it's all the way over here, you got him. So that's the key to that inside wrist lock, okay? It's yeah,
Number 3,
yeah. Again, it doesn't matter whether it's A, B, or C. If it was B, the same thing would apply. I'd be coming in this way, and the same thing's going to apply. That'll help him to open up his hand for you. So from here, bam, goes in there, flex. Now I got my elbow shoulder joint lock in. From here, I'm gonna pivot, I'm gonna throw him. If he's smart, he'll roll. The follow-up here will be very simple. From this position, I'm gonna pivot in the opposite direction, grab control of his fingers and his wrist, paste them down to the floor. From here, I'm cranking back on his fingers, and then I knee onto the elbow. In the cross wrist grab, you initiate it as an inside wrist lock. Only from here, I insert this hand, and I get the same lock. You still get your elbow shoulder joint manipulation. Yes. Yeah. Yes. Yes. Yeah. Cha. Yeah. Yes. 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 And lock him up. Yes. 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 Yes.
Yeah.
So. Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. 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 17.
Yeah.
Yes. 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 So it goes. Yes. 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 Dealing with an incoming kick, dealing with a punch, possibly a secondary punch, and then play your techniques. Yes. 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 Oh, yes. Yeah. Yes. 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 Yeah. Yes. 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 Whoa, cha. Cha. Yes. 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 Push up. Yes. Yes. Concentrate on these two knuckles and snap that wrist. Expose this thumb, grab control of it, come inside and snap that wrist. Yes. 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 Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Yes. From this position, up on his toes, it's going to be very light for you to spin around this way. Yes. 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 Yeah. Yeah. Yes. 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 When you're practicing your empty hand forms, as well as your self-defense techniques, learn to make the movements fluid and continuous. So you are therefore integrating techniques and tactics of different types. That'll make them a lot more useful and certainly a lot more practical. Try to find different applications to the movements beyond the striking, impact-oriented techniques such as kicking and punching. Look for other applications such as pressure points, joint locks and throws, and a variety of other tactics that are there. It's a matter of you searching them out.